Because I think it's just a good habit. You get your stuff out done first, and then you go on to the next. Because at the very least, you should have your own case at the end of the, you know? Just in case.
Attack first.
Yeah, no, defend first and then go attack.
You can't, just for this time, can I attack first?
Huh?
Just for this time, can I attack first?
No, you gotta defend first.
Need more prep time, either. Need more prep time to
Yes,
do it.
she's like
You only
30
have
seconds.
30 seconds
Oh, you only have
left.
30 seconds. Oh, it's 3:30. I'm sorry.
No.
So my opponent, time to start. So my opponent have said that the new ideas and women will give new ideas and there's no clear percentage of how many new people will, because people will just keep getting reelected because some people do want to leave. However, the people that are really corrupted would not want to leave because they have all that, they are earning money and they keep getting reelected because the lobbyists and the connections. So why would they want to leave? And then next year has that it increases corruption, and I have not said no clear reason why corruption, clear reason why there would, and I have said that term limits would basically not increase corruption, but however the old people, because they are not worried about re-election anymore and they can just keep re-elected, they can just corrupt all they want. However, new people, because they are still trying to do things, they will not corrupt as much as the old people does. And then I will defend my own case. So my opponent's value is self-determination, which is when the people can make their own decisions. However, in my contention, one I have stated that the public citizens of the United States do want term limits. I stated in my contention one that surveys have shown that corruption ranks as a top public priority, with more than 2/3 of Americans agree that most politicians are corrupt. And then in another survey, more than 70% of Americans want term limits. And there were several surveys that agree with the point. 70% believe that the government works for powerful allies rather than ordinary people. Therefore, my evidence supports that the American public wants term limits, and according to my opponent's framework, the citizens of the United States can act on their own values. The Congress should get term limits because the public wanted in surveys. In her first attention, she have stated that having term limits would destroy the legislative corruption. Legislative branch, however, should have provided no clear definitions of what the legislative branch does. So therefore, she has no impact on what is the impact when the legislative branch gets destroyed. Furthermore, she has also said the lobbyists would affect the new people more. However, think of this, Judge. There is going to, no matter how corrupt the new people are, they're always going to be less corrupt than a career politician, because the career politician is going to be continuous corrupting because they don't care about the other people benefit, they have the connections, and therefore the lobbyists would benefit more because there's no new people. The new people don't have. Actually, yeah, just thank you. I vote for pro.
Oh, 4 minutes.
Yeah. Go to the bathroom.
Our political definition clearly outlines the burden the word justified puts on the affirmative in this debate for 4 reasons. Our definition of justified is superior to the affirmative vague definition. This definition of justified means in a political sense that the affirmative must prove that term limits solve the issue or issues it claims for it to be considered rational. Others like that if affirmative does not argue our definition, they're conceding the superiority of it, and this prohibits the judge from simply voting for the term limits unless there's a clear policy benefit that is valid. They must win benefits through the contentions, and if we continue to show the harms and how their contentions are not being clearly done, then there is no political justification for term limits. If affirmative concedes our counter definition, then you should err to the standard that the negative creates using this definition and the affirmative fails to meet the burdens of the resolution. Do not let the affirmative create new arguments after failing to argue it in their 1IR, as we have no speeches after the 1NR to counter affirmative arguments. Therefore, in this debate, the affirmative contentions are not clearly won and convoluted. So if there's a debate on or non-clear benefit, and you have to do any work to evaluate the strength of the argument, then please cross-apply the George Washington speech in the first negative speech, which states that when you have no clear benefit, do not vote to make changes, as they often destroy the very powers of government that they are assuming to win. Additionally, follow the definition of justified as it was clearly dropped. So this creates a judging framework that you can use to vote negative. A model debate only supports voting negative to err against supporting the resolution A affirmative. And now, I would like to also add that I would also like to point out that my opponent hasn't touched my contention 1 or contention 2 about my contention 1 or my contention 2 about my contention 2 about terminus as an act of paternalism, because it clearly states that with terminus, it is terminus are an interference on the people's rights, and even though my opponent states that the public wants it, it's clearly taking the rights away from the people. My opponent also states that with new people there will always be there will be less corruption than career politicians. But the fact is that you don't know their backgrounds. What if they aren't in it for the money, to be a career politician? What if they're just in it to just have a better government? And I would also like to state that term limits will not solve, as there are other issues that prohibit people from voting and getting underrepresented groups into Congress. For 1, gerrymandering and redistricting. 2, limiting voter participation. For example, decreasing polling locations, restricting mail-in voting like this past election, and the Electoral College. Now, my opponent also states that new ideas, it'll bring in fresh blood, and the corrupted politicians will not want to leave because they will be lining their pockets with money. But why wouldn't they want to leave? Because if they're a career politician, then they would keep on coming back to office. So her argument there does not make sense at all. Now, her value of justice and is her definition is moral righteousness, and my criterion of autonomy is a person's ability to act on his or own values or interests. So that my criterion and my value of my criterion of autonomy and my value of self-determination therefore subsumes her value of justice. And how much more time do we have?
45 seconds.
Yeah, can I just end that?
Sure.
Vote negative.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Need to be moral. A government cannot be just if they're corrupted. A government can be more just if there's new people and new ideas. In my first contention, I have stated that politicians will focus more on effective governments instead of constantly worrying about re-election as a top priority, because they can only serve for a period of time, which will motivate them to work harder. Term limits will cause Congress committee members to be being chosen on merit rather than being chosen on political favor. Term limits will also increase independence from special interest groups and lobbyists. The lobbyists, because they're rotating leadership, they would not be able to invest in campaigns and curry favor over time. In my contention 2, I stated that without term limits, the same people will often get elected again and again. The long-term legislators will no longer care about what the citizens benefit, since they just keep winning, and they will only care about money and lobbyist gain because they're in a cooperative relationship. Judge, think of this. Would you rather have a career politician who is continuously corrupting, or a new legislator with a major chance that they won't go corrupt? Even if some of the new legislators corrupt thanks to time limits, there won't be decades of continuous corruption. My opponent's framework is failing since the American public do not want term limits, and her value is self-determination, which is basically the public acting on their own opinion interests. My opponents in her rebuttal have also said a lot of what ifs. What ifs are not in it for the money, which is referring to the legislators. However, as long as there are corruptive politicians, far more than they're not corrupted, it's still less beneficial than not. Furthermore, all the most corrupted politicians is going to want to stay for the money. So in the end, there's also always going to be more corrupted than the good ones who are not in it for the money. That is why, Judge, I strongly urge you to vote for pro. Thank you.
So,